Hey there! Today, I want to cover 6 reasons why your optic mounting screws can fail, possibly causing damage or even injury, and how you can fix it forever using 2 very different products. And as a bonus, I want to show you how you can extract a broken screw from your slide yourself at home, on the workbench, today at Jim's Armory. Stay tuned, it's going to be a good one. I recently had a catastrophic failure with an optic mounted on my pistol. Screws came loose, and one of them actually broke off inside my slide. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a major safety and reliability issue. Many of you rely on blue Loctite 243 to secure your optic to your pistol, and I've heard many stories and even experienced firsthand recently that it sometimes just doesn't work the way we think it does. So today, we're going to dive in and diagnose exactly what could be causing that, and even better, I'm going to show you how to prevent it from ever happening again. So let's dive in. So let's take a look at some of the top reasons why Loctite might fail to cure correctly. First of all, Loctite 243 is an anaerobic adhesive, which means that it cures in the absence of oxygen. Another reason Loctite might not cure correctly is contaminants. Guns are usually slathered in oil, CLP, grease, cosmoline, you name it, contaminants are probably there. So you need to clean it. And a lot of us have been using alcohol for a long time, but I think you need something a little stronger than that, which we'll get into in a bit. So another reason Loctite might not cure correctly is due to inactive surfaces. A lot of modern handguns are stainless steel, some are aluminum, Cerakoted, you have aluminum screws, anodized parts. All of these are inactive surfaces, meaning they don't readily give off the active ions that are required for the curing process. We'll dig into that a little bit more later. It sounds confusing, and it is. Another reason is insufficient curing time or temperature. You need to wait a full 24 hours. There should be no vibration, no use. You can't go shooting. You need to let it sit still for 24 hours at room temperature. If it's too cold, it also won't cure correctly. Did you know Loctite typically has a shelf life of 1 year from the date of shipment or 2 years from the date of manufacture for an open product? Often you'll find a expiration date on the bottle itself. If you don't, general rule is after opening, the shelf life is generally about 12 months. The shelf life can be found by checking the package for a specific date or by looking for indicators like the date of manufacture on a batch code, especially if the shipment date is unknown. For optimal storage, keep Loctite products in a cool, dry place between 46 and 70 degrees, freedom units. Another reason is there might not be any Loctite in the hole. Did you know that in a blind hole, that is a hole with a bottom, like typically found in a slide, they don't go all the way through. So as you run a screw in, there's air trapped inside this hole. And as you tighten it, that air needs to go somewhere. It pushes past the threads and can actually push out all the product. So you'll have no Loctite at all. I've had this happen before. All right, so before we can talk about how to prevent Loctite from failing, let's talk about what to do if you're in a situation where your Loctite failed and you've got a broken screw stuck in your slide. I happen to have one right here. Take a look at that right here in this RMR hole. There's a screw broken off, so likely what has happened is these screws became loose while shooting, and then just from the optic jiggling around on there during the extremely violent process of the slide blowing back and forward, it eventually just sheared the screw right off. So first step, don't panic. There's a few things that you can do here. So first, like I said, just take a deep breath. This can be fixed. It's not the end of the world. Since our Loctite likely failed, there's the only way that this is really going to happen like this is if the screw backed off. If that screw came up a little bit and that optic was able to just jiggle back and forth, even just the slightest amount, that's what causes this to shear off. There is one other possibility that it was over-tightened, but in a lot of cases, the screw will actually break off closer to the head. If you're lucky, there's enough sticking out here that you can get it off. In this case, we're broken off flush. So the fact that the Loctite probably failed means this screw is likely not going to be too terribly difficult to get out of there. There's a few things we can do to get it started. First of all, a little bit of oil. Just let that soak in. Penetrating oil would be better if you have some Croil or WD-40. I could have swore I had some, but sometimes having a teenage boy means things that you thought were yours are no longer yours. So we'll just let that sit for a little bit. Now here I've got a soldering iron. So Loctite will melt with heat. So what we can do is take the soldering iron. I've got it heated up to 750 degrees. You don't need a fancy soldering iron like this. I just happen to have a lot of strange hobbies that get me a lot of strange tools. But regular cheap soldering iron, you just plug into the wall, will work just fine. Try to find a tip that's not a point. Like this chisel tip is really good, because the more surface area you have in contact with the screw, the better off you'll be. And you just set it on there. Probably going to burn some of this oil out of there. You can actually see it leaking down inside. Yep, I can see bubbles coming up as the oil is actually soaking down inside the screw. That's perfect. That's what we want. I don't feel any of the heat on the slide right now. It's important to have the oil so that as the Loctite is melting, that oil can sort of displace it a little bit and help the screw come out a little better. All right, well, here we are down close. I hope I can get this close enough. Oh, did you see that? It moved already. I think the oil is actually hurting me more than it's helping me at this point. I think it moved a little bit more. Yep. Yep. There we go. If I can get on the side. Let's see if I have a sharper one in here. I think this one is actually a dentist pick. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Almost got enough sticking out to be able to grab it with a pair of pliers. Probably do it like it's still hot. Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah, look at that. All right, got that on film. There you go. All right, so that was the best possible outcome. We got the screw out of here without a problem. And as I said, it's been my experience that this will work most of the time. Now, if it doesn't, you have two more options. The option I recommend, if you can't get the screw out, it won't move, you've tried everything, you've heated it up with a soldering iron, you've applied penetrating oil, take it to a gunsmith. Really, just find a gunsmith. He's got experience. He's probably done it a million times. He's got tools. Now, there is one other option. If you just, for whatever reason, you can't do that, you're just a diehard do-it-yourself, or you don't want to spend the money, drive across, maybe you live in the middle of nowhere, you don't have a gunsmith. So the other option is reverse drill bits and an easy out. Now that's a tiny screw. That's a number 6 screw. So you need a really small drill bit. You probably want to get some sort of a small punch to make a center punch it so that you can get the drill bit to stay in the middle. Otherwise it's going to walk all over the place and probably break. I really honestly don't recommend that route. I have tried it before, and with a drill bit that small, you'll likely break it, or you won't be able to get it to go straight, and it'll just create more problems for you. But it is possible. Reverse drill bit and an easy out, or one of those screw extractor sets. You can buy some pretty small ones. McMaster Carr has a couple of nice sets you can get that aren't too much. You might spend $70-80 for a quality one. Don't cheap out here. Don't get on Amazon and buy something for $7.99 that has 1,000 great reviews. Promise you, you're not going to have luck with that, and you're going to damage your gun. If you paid any amount of money for, your gun, more than a few $100, which I'm sure you did, don't destroy it. Take it to a gunsmith. Well, now that we've got the screw out, I can clean this thing up, and we'll look at some different ways where we can make this so it doesn't happen again. So the first product I want to talk about today is Loctite 243, which most of you are probably familiar with. And to mitigate our 6 reasons, first of all, no oxygen. The easiest way to circumvent that is just not to overuse it. You don't want to put so much that it's leaking out everywhere, because some of it will probably be exposed to oxygen, and since it's all connected and all touching via surface tension, that oxygen could actually cause it not to cure correctly. So number 2 reason is contaminants. So I mentioned something a little stronger than the usual isopropyl we've probably all been using for years, and that is acetone. Acetone's a lot more effective at eating through oil and contaminants and breaking them down and evaporating. It evaporates super fast, and it smells amazing. I'm kidding about the smell, although leave a comment if you agree that this is one of the best smells in the world. Okay, so my wife is probably wondering where this little dish went. There's a little bit of acetone in there already, so I'm just going to pour a bit in there. The beauty of acetone is it'll probably be evaporated by the time I finish recording this. It goes pretty quick. So let's start with our screws. Just drop them right in there. Now, I took some time ahead of time. Sometimes these screws come with a little blob of dried goop. I assume it's Loctite. Everybody I know, including a gunsmith that I'm friendly with, that I talk to all the time, friend of mine, he said that stuff's just there to make everybody feel good. It might be for liability reasons. Don't trust it. Don't use it. I actually soak it in acetone and pick it off of there with a dental pick just to get it out of my way. And next, we'll clean off the bottom of the optic just a tiny bit, just in case there's any oil or any contaminants on there. That's good enough. See how fast that evaporates? Look at that. I'll hit the plate too, just to be thorough. The top of the slide. And then I picked up these. They have little tiny pieces of wire inside them, as well as the little brushy stuff. So I just dip it in the acetone and just run it into the screw holes. Clean off whatever might be down in there. Set that off to the side and continue to enjoy the fabulous aroma. Okay, so that's it. I think we're ready for some Loctite. Now the next concern is inactive metals. I got this just because it's magnetic, and I can tell the slide is it's probably some kind of stainless steel, so it's probably not going to be the best surface to give off those active ions that we need for this polymerization. And the screws, almost nothing at all. So these are likely some kind of alloy, or maybe coated in black oxide or nitride or something. In any case, that's a terrible surface for Loctite as well. So to deal with our inactive metals, we've got Clean and Prime, anaerobic primer activator. The instructions aren't on here, but basically you just spray it on, let it sit for 30 to 90 seconds till it's dry, and then continue as you normally would. So we'll go ahead and hit our screws here. Roll them a little bit. And top of the slide. And I can see that tacking up really quickly. Hit a little bit more, make sure we get some down inside. And so that's going to help release those ions in place of coming from the actual steel. To understand how Loctite cures, we can take a look at how rust forms. Steel and other active metals release electrons in a process known as oxidation. These electrons can bind with other elements, like the oxygen atoms in water, forming iron oxides, or what you and I know as rust. Loctite and other anaerobic adhesives rely on the same exchange of electrons, but instead of combining with oxygen to form rust, they form a polymer in a process called redox polymerization. Now, for this process to work optimally, there must not be any oxygen present because electrons from the metal will more readily bind with the oxygen, robbing from the polymerization process. Which leads us nicely to the fourth reason for failure: curing time and temperature. Just like rust, polymers don't form instantly. It takes 24 hours for this process to complete. And temperature plays a big role in how long it takes. If it's too cold, it takes longer. High temperatures can actually speed up the curing process, but can cause it to become brittle. For best results, let it cure at room temperature. And now make sure we're not expired here. So this says it expires February 17th, 2027, so we should be good. Always shake your Loctite, especially with an older bottle that's been sitting around for a while. Sometimes the liquid that comes out is just the carrier fluid. Often you can tell if it's really exceedingly runny, you might need to shake it up or just buy a new bottle. And now before we get too carried away, the last thing is blind hole pressure. So if I take a look at these holes, this one looks like a blind hole. This one looks like it might actually go all the way through, possibly entering the cavity where the extractor is. So I'm not going to put Loctite down inside of this one. I'm just going to put it on the threads. For the other one, though, I'll put it on the threads and we'll put some down inside. Put another drop just to be sure. There we go. Get some air to mix with that. There we go. Definitely down inside. Okay. Just want to coat the threads, not too much. Now this requires a little plate, so I got the optic plate in place. This onto the weapon here, and we'll start with the side with the through hole. There we go, just enough on those threads. That's it. Now this one has some down inside as well, so should have adequate coverage without having too much. Okay, those are both snug. These should be torqued down 15 inch-pounds. Just getting them both snug. Okay, there we go. Let's go to 10. 10, still moving. And there we go. 15. 15. All right. I feel like that's pretty professionally done. We'll see how long that lasts. All right, the other product I want to go over is Vibra-Tite VC3. Now, this came recommended by some folks on Reddit, as well as my friend who's a gunsmith, professional gunsmith, not an amateur one like me. And this is a completely different product. So instead of being an adhesive, this stuff doesn't ever actually completely dry. It stays sort of rubbery. And in fact, for the application, you put it on the screw first and let it dry for 10 minutes or more, and then screw it into the gun. And you can even take it apart and reuse it a few times. So that's really interesting. It doesn't suffer some of the same problems with the requirement for the lack of oxygen. It's not as sensitive to oil and contaminants. So I'm going to try this. I've got a brand new Staccato XC, so This was so highly recommended by people that I actually believe in and trust that I'm willing to put this on this gun. And against manufacturers' recommendations, they do say in the manual, the plate's from Dawson, and it says specifically to use Loctite. It also says to specifically not put it in the hole, and I assume that's because this hole actually goes all the way through to the extractor. And if you're familiar with 2011s at all, everybody's kind of, there's like some voodoo with the extractor. Everybody's afraid of those. I'm not as much, but still, I understand they probably don't want you to do that because it could get down in there and interfere with the extractor. But we don't care. We're not going to use Loctite. We're going to try this out. So let's get started. It's a little tricky to do. Let me get a paper towel. I don't want to make a giant mess here. A beautiful mat. It's like the third one I've had. I keep ruining them. So you notice already it's different. It's red instead of blue. Should raise some eyebrows. So just going to put a small amount on there. Same as Loctite, just a little bit. Whoops, it might be a little bit too much. Try to get it off. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll set it down. Let it dry. And I'll just continue through the rest of these screws. I may edit this out. It's a little boring. I also already cleaned everything. Even though this stuff isn't as sensitive, I still figure let's put our best foot forward, clean everything with acetone. So I've already done that off camera. Okay, so it's been about 10 or 15 minutes here. Let's have a look at what's going on with this. It still looks a little bit wet right here. Am I gonna look? No, it's dry. So it's just rubbery. I can feel it with my dental tool here. All right, so now the idea with this stuff, from what I gather, is that just by staying rubbery like this, it fills up all the gaps between the threads and provides sort of a dampener for any vibration, which could cause the screw to back out. I think I read somewhere, I'll try to find the source, but I think I read somewhere that only 10 to 20% of the threads actually make contact, that the others are not actually in contact. Even with today's precise machining, threads are just not that precise after all, and that's what causes them to fail. The small amount of surface area combined with some vibration can cause them to start to back off a little bit and move, take the path of least resistance, which is to loosen up. And like I said before, once they're loose, it doesn't take much movement for that severe impact back and forth to actually shear that screw off. All right, well, let's get these put back together. We'll put the plate on first as per the instructions. And these should be torqued down to 20 inch-pounds. Oh yeah, I can feel the resistance going in already. Oh, that's pretty cool. And these are a different size. Don't know why they did that, but whatever. Oh wow, yeah. It's going to kind of go slowly here, back and forth. All right, we're approaching 20. There we go, 20 inch-pounds. It's a snug fit. There we go, 20. Okay, switch to my long T10, and let's get this optic mounted, shall we? Sometimes I wish I had a third hand to help with some of this stuff. Yeah, I can feel the resistance going in. Pretty neat. Look at that. There's 15. There's 15. All right. Let's see how this does. This gun's new, so we'll start putting some rounds through it pretty soon, and maybe I'll do a check-in at about 1,000 rounds, which is what I typically do with these things. I don't have any safe queens around here. They all get shot, and this thing's going to get shot just like all the rest of them. One other tip I've got for you is to get yourself a paint pen like this. Maybe there's a better one. This one isn't that great, actually. So if you know about one, leave me a comment. Tell us where to get it. But that paint pen, you can put some witness marks like this. And it's just a good idea to keep an eye on that. You don't want this to happen to you. It's not a lot of fun what we just went through today. I'd like to be able to just put one on and shoot it and never have another problem. But just get in the habit of checking that all the time. You can look down at a glance and see if anything's moved or not. I'd like to have something with a finer point, maybe silver or something would stick out a little bit better. Anyway, that's it. Wish you happy shooting. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. I've got a lot more content coming. I'm new here on YouTube. Could definitely help the algorithm out a little bit if you'd interact with me. Leave some comments. Let me know if this has ever happened to you, or if you've heard a story of it happening to someone else. It'd be great to find a video. I have heard of people getting hit in the head with these things. It's really not funny. I'm kind of thinking of it happening to me, and that does make me giggle a little bit. But let's get those stories in and let's share. All right. Thanks. Till next time.